This economy is largely controlled by algorithm, and as design itself, the algorithm has been built to punish workers. They are always under tremendous pressure that their rating should not go down to a certain level. If the rating goes down to a certain level, algorithm is designed in a way that you will receive less orders, and you will receive less incentive. This incentivization of work is basically pushing workers to work for more than 8 hours. Existing or traditional labor laws is also not being practiced by such algorithm-based systems.
Hello and welcome to Macro Decode. As part of India's gig economy, millions are earning a livelihood by delivering food, driving cabs, and providing digital service. The government has recognized gig workers under the Social Security Code, announced health insurance, and launched welfare initiatives such as e-Shram registration. But have these measures translated into meaningful protection on the ground? Joining us today is Dharmendra Kumar, founding Secretary of Jan Pahal, an organization which has been working for the rights of gig workers. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
So, in your opinion, what are the main issues faced by the gig workers in India?
First of all, the basic question. Are they workers? And if yes, do they have entitlement to the rights that other workers of this country have under the various labor laws? And if not, why? So largely the debate started from the definition itself that they are not workers. So the traditional concept of relationship between employer is being challenged here. Thankfully, in the Social Security Code that the Parliament adopted in 2020, gig workers have now been recognized as workers at least one of the 4 codes, that is for Social Security. But they still do not figure as workers under 3 other codes, namely Industrial Codes, Occupational Safety and Health Code, and Wage Code. So we have just begun looking at the social security perspective of gig workers.
Government had recognized gig workers under the Code of Social Security 2020. In the 6 years of Social Security Code, what tangible benefits have gig workers received?
For implementation of the Social Security Code, which was enacted by Parliament, state governments had to frame rules and they had to notify rules. And only once the rules had been notified by various state governments, it could have been implemented. Unfortunately, the notification took 6 years and it's only notified recently. We all are waiting for the speedy implementation of the Social Security Code. And there's a lot of debate going on within ministry, within policy framework of what to provide under Social Security and how to provide. So these basic questions of what and how still remains unanswered.
Unless it comes into force, do you think it will solve most of the issues of gig workers?
Not most of the issues. The code is only looking at having some kind of mechanism to deliver social protections to gig workers. So the Social Security Code will not look at regulatory frameworks or at working conditions at large. Under social protections, largely you have 9 parameters if you go by the ILO standards. And in India, we had 2 major schemes. EPFO, Employees Provident Fund Organization, and other is ESIC, Employees State Insurance Corporation. These 2 products were covering all 9 social security parameters standardized by the ILO internationally. ESIC had been looking at the protection of old age, of disability, of unemployment, maternity benefits, sick benefits, and the pension aspect was taken care by the EPF. But there are many questions. ESIC and EPFO both are contributory in nature. We simply cannot extend these provisions to the gig economy. One reason is that here they do not have one employer, but they may have multiple employers. As we see on the ground, that delivery workers might be working simultaneously for more than one aggregator. So the contribution has to come from all of them. So all these questions have to be answered, and the contributory framework can be extended, provided we have the data and the willingness of the aggregators. The second option of extending social protection is also provision in the Social Security Code. The government will create a social security board for gig workers. This board will develop the mechanism through which such protections can be provided to gig workers. What we are asking the central government that let's have some kind of central regulatory framework, a board which has a robust revenue model, which is able to, in a position to address all 9 social protections.
Right. And what about insurance in case of ride-hailing apps? The workers are very prone to accidents. What are the biggest gaps in the implementation of accident cover, health insurance, pensions, and other benefits? And the government also had announced that Ayushman Bharat health insurance coverage will be given to gig workers. What is the status on that?
So life insurance is very important because we know that India has a very high risk of road accidents, and gig workers are very vulnerable to road accidents. Earlier, there were platforms which had no insurance policy. Gradually, now most of the platforms have some kind of insurance, but they all have developed their own private standards of insurance. So the current insurance regime for gig work is non-standardized. What we need is a minimum basic standard of insurance, which can only be taken care by the board or by the government. At best, what you have is a life insurance of 10 lakh rupees. But then workers struggle to claim that because there is not enough information or knowledge to access those benefits. So we still have to do a lot on getting these benefits. One good thing that came in between was from the government when our finance minister announced that the Ayushman Bharat scheme will be extended to all gig workers. So that is a substantial health coverage up to 10 lakh rupees if the state government is also matching the central government contribution. But the real benefit is still awaited because the claim statement needs certain mechanism to identify who are the gig workers and who are the real beneficiaries. Very recently in the parliament, the labor ministry has stated that e-Shram as the core base through which all these schemes will be rolled out. So Ayushman Bharat coverage for gig workers is still in the paper. It has not been implemented. Now, coming to e-Shram registration, millions of gig workers have registered on the portal. Beyond this registration, what real benefits are they receiving now? So there is no real benefit on registration on e-Shram as of today, but the government is saying that all gig workers should be registered on e-Shram. If they are registered on e-Shram as platform workers, their data can be verified. More than 1 million people have registered on e-Shram. Now it's time to get them verified and roll out what has already been announced in the budget, that is Ayushman Bharat. Workers cannot wait more for such kind of essential protections. So even in case of e-Shram, the portal is open for the gig workers, registration is happening, but the implementation is the problem. Now, coming to these platforms, how do these algorithms of digital platforms work against gig workers? Should the platforms legally explain how algorithms allocate work, determine incentives, or how they deactivate the workers? Should transparency be there when it comes to algorithms? This economy is largely controlled by algorithm. And as design itself, the algorithm has been built to punish workers, and to fine workers. There is a lot of mental pressure that it exerts on workers. For example, the rating system. They are always under tremendous pressure that their rating should not go down to a certain level. If the rating goes down, you will receive less orders, and you will receive less incentive. And this incentivization of work is basically pushing workers to work for more than 8 hours. If you work only for 8 hours, the algorithm will make sure that you do not get enough order, you do not get orders near your location, you do not get incentive. To meet the algorithm pressure, workers are basically spending 12 to 14 hours on an average. As there are many studies that have found that the average working hour for most of the workers is not 8, but they are working for almost 12 to 14 hours, and they want to make themselves financially viable living in a city because the living cost is quite high, and you cannot meet living cost with the kind of earnings that gig and platform work is offering you for 8 hours. That's why there are demands around minimum wage also. That means if they work for 8 hours and if they are logged in for work whether there is an order or not, they should at least be compensated at the level of minimum wage. So their income should never go down below minimum wage on hourly basis or on daily basis. So that is the idea.
Is there something that we can do on how these algorithms can be more gig worker friendly?
Yeah, of course, it has to be fair, it has to be transparent, but right now it's neither transparent nor fair. As a customer, we have the option on the algorithm to rate workers, right? But workers cannot rate consumers.
Right.
If based on the rating given by customers, the ID gets blocked immediately. So all these are not aligned with the labor laws or at least basic human labor practices. For example, I think it is natural for any justice system to provide an opportunity for explanation. We have seen workers' ID cards being blocked in mass without giving them an opportunity to say something.
Yeah.
And that's where algorithm is not justified. It's not only determining your work slot, your work area, your order value, your work time, your incentive. It's also determining your status as a worker. If somebody has to be fired, there is a notice period. Either you pay 1 month or 3 months salary in advance, or
Right.
you give them a notice in advance. You also get a chance to respond to the allegations that have been made against you. There has been some minimum basic mechanism, available to worker.
Right.
We are far behind the economy, and our policy is lagging, and we need to be responding to all these emerging concerns and emerging scenarios of the economy.
We need to have strict labor laws for the gig economy. Is there something happening on that front?
Unfortunately, right now we do not have any labor law which addresses their regulatory framework at central level, and we do not even have something in the pipeline also. Under 4 labor codes, only one labor code on social security, talks about gig workers. Rest 3 does not even talk about gig workers.
Coming to the earnings of gig workers, what would be the average earning of gig workers in India today? Should India introduce a minimum earnings guarantee for gig workers after accounting for their fuel, maintenance, and other operating costs?
We did a survey. There we found, the more than 70% were working for more than 8 hours.
That's it.
To ensure that they are able to survive in metropolitan cities or areas, they have to work 12 to 14 hours. If they work for 14 hours, 7 days in a week, without any weekly off, to earn something like 25,000, 30,000. But that is not your earning. Then you have to also take care of the fuel cost, of the maintenance, of the parking charges. In many cities, even after working for 12 to 14 hours, their real earning is not at par the minimum wages. Many workers or most gig workers reporting that they are not able to earn even 18,000 rupees, though they are working 7 days a week, 12 to 14 a day.
Where you have such a rigorous kind of an environment and you are not earning well, there is no chance to upskill yourself or look for other career development opportunities. A lot of youth who are employed in gig work, there is no career development. There is no skill upgradation happening and no increase in salary structure. So how can this work against the youth of the country? And how can the government address this issue?
Most of the gig workers are in the age group of 18 to say 40. In that age group, you have aspirations and you have chances to improve yourself as a professional. You can develop your skills. Again, there is a vicious cycle of poverty and other reasons which are basically pushing you to work. There are many cases where you find students doing this as a part-time and eventually they land up doing this full-time. So when our youth is spending so much of their time working just to make the bare minimum, what will happen if their bodies do not allow anymore to continue working for so long? That's why social protection has taken so much importance. So must get opportunities of scaling up of since they all are working hard. So these are the best people, one of the best people that India have, who are working hard and can work 24 into 7 and can work for months and months without taking break. So we must ensure that this demographic dividend is not wasted only for delivery, only for care, or only for ride sharing. So if we provide them certain skill set, we provide them necessary infrastructure and necessary financial support, I think most of them will be able to develop their own businesses. We cannot do away with gig economy. This economy is only going to grow. So now the only question is how to make best of this for our people.
You mentioned a few direct points, how you can upskill them, how you can provide them an infrastructure for development, for financial support. But who will do this?
Government has to come forward on this for this. We can't expect others to do this. And now the discussion is around social protection. We are ignoring working condition at large. These sectors are also convenient for many of us. So it's not that we are against e-commerce or we are against gig economy. But of course, this needs to be regulated in such a manner that this becomes a win-win for everybody.
So do you suggest some steps which will reward them for their work, help them in building their careers and building their employability and productivity?
You only aspire of what you see around yourself. So what they are saying is restaurants. So their aspiration to own a restaurant, can be supported through various mechanisms. We do have that capacity today where we can support our youth in developing their own food supply chain, own cloud kitchens, own distribution hubs, their own manufacturing. And we have some success stories. Workers have become vendor of Amazon or Flipkart, and they are manufacturing something and supplying something, selling something. Likewise, we have seen many women and small women's collectives which are supplying food. There are many ways where government can support. It's not that easy to start a business. You need many permissions. And the biggest problem is that you do not have enough formal commercial spaces available in the cities. Commercial space in the city is very expensive. So we need to create affordable commercial spaces where these youths can channelize their aspirations and dreams.
The number of gig workers are growing year after year. And these are youth who are hardworking. They are willing to put their time for what they are doing. We need to tap their skills for more productive works, more high value jobs. For that, we need to work on their career development, their upskilling, and then provide them financial supports so that they can also become entrepreneurs going ahead. So that was Mr. Dharmendra Kumar talking to us on the issues of gig workers. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you.